Have you ever noticed how some of the biggest creators in the world have their videos up and they change titles and thumbnails? Well, today we're going to go into why that happens and everything that I know about testing thumbnails because honestly, in terms of leveraging activities, testing thumbnails is one of the best ways that you can get people to click on your videos. We're going to go over how to change thumbnails, the new YouTube features going on, and then also what to test when you are testing thumbnails. I hope this video helps you, and without further ado, let's get into it.
Hi, my name's Laura Mai. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to go over everything you need to know about thumbnails. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a data-led content marketer. I run pages like Dana Ariely's, and I just love data. I love testing things, I love research, and I love to learn. So I'm going to tell you the different things that I've learned about thumbnails over time, because even though I talk a lot about as well like SEO, like looking into topics for your videos and competitor analysis, which is definitely all important in terms of improving the quality of your video. If you are low on time, focusing on the packaging, which is basically the thumbnail and the title of your video, is going to get you a lot more bang for your buck than focusing on the back end stuff, even though it's important. So with that being said, we're going to first get into like how thumbnails work, how you can make them, who makes them, how it affects things, the new tools that YouTube's rolling out, all of that we're just going to cover in here. So just going to get into it. So the first time that I was really exposed to thumbnails was through Grace Andrews. And for those of you who don't know who Grace Andrews is, she is the person who runs the Diary of a CEO podcast marketing. And she's really, really cool. She did this podcast masterclass with this guy named Callum. And in it, she talked about thumbnails. And this was the first time where I was truly exposed to the idea of packaging on YouTube. Before this video, I was clueless. I knew nothing. So she was talking. The way that they do it is they actually test like 90 thumbnails an episode, something crazy like that.
That you're saying now, which people just don't see. I've seen your Facebook ads library for the thumbnails. So just talk people through that. Every episode, there's like 20 thumbnails being tested.
100.
100 thumbnails being tested.
So, I mean, it's no secret. If you go look in the back end, you're going to see it all, and you may have been served them before. But so say episodes coming out on Thursday, a week before, we are running 100 thumbnails using 3 different facial expressions and iterating it kind of 3 times across those facial expressions. We'll then run them for a week up until kind of the day before to understand what is the most engaging title, what are people clicking through to. Also, it serves as a fantastic way to build up our subscriber base, because the call to action is to go to subscribe so that when the episode comes out, you're ready and waiting. And we'll look at all the data. We'll look at the click-through. We'll look at, CPC. We'll look at everything to understand what are the key points people want to talk about. And we've actually taken it a step further. And I don't think anyone's in the team, maybe even Steve hasn't spoken about this yet, but we are now doing a pre-research testing phase. So our researchers will establish the 20, 30 topics that they want Steve to talk about in the conversation. They're kind of the topics that no one else has spoken about before, the research they've uncovered and investigated. And we're now running those as thumbnails to understand the topics that people are more interested in and more inclined to talk about or get engaged with or get involved with, so that can dictate the conversation Steve leads with, and also the assets we lead with in post-production.
So after doing that, I decided to test this for myself. So on my own YouTube channel, my own podcast, whatever, I made 90 thumbnails. You know what? I watched that. I was like, I'm going to try it. To date, that is still my best performing video on YouTube, the one that I made 90 thumbnails for. Now, why don't I do that every time? Because honestly, I don't have the time for it, right? Like, I have clients, I have other things going on. And for my own stuff, sometimes I can't make 90 thumbnails. Most of the time I can't. I make anywhere from like 6 to 15. So if you hear 90 thumbnails and you're like overwhelmed, I don't do that every time. It's really hard to do every time. Iman Gadzi or whatever, he mentioned in one video that he had 3 people working full-time on thumbnails. So if you can't do all of this, that's okay. Maybe you can just implement 1 or 2 of these strategies to help you out. So now that we've talked about a little bit how you create these thumbnails and how many is optimal to make, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the new YouTube feature that's come out. So with TubeBuddy, especially if you don't have the enterprise version, I've never used the enterprise version, which is how they must have been testing those 90 different thumbnails. But the new YouTube version, you can test A, B, or C thumbnails. So it's not an A-B test, it's an ABC test. So you can test 3 thumbnails at a time. And what YouTube will do is it'll tell you which one of those thumbnails performs best for your viewers. Now, something really important to note about the YouTube algorithm is it doesn't value click-through rate as much as it values watch time. So when you are creating these thumbnails, don't think, how can I get people to click on my video? Think, how can I meet people's expectations so that the right person clicks on my video and watches it through? Because that's what YouTube cares about. And again, with this, you don't want to be doing super clickbaity things because people are just going to click off your video. But when you do these ABC tests as well, the other thing I would recommend is testing the macro before you test the micro. So that means don't test whether red, yellow, or blue is going to work best on your video before you test things like actual concepts and ideas. So think of 3 different things that could match really well with your video. Put them on the different thumbnails and then upload it, see how it goes, and do this as many times as you want. Now, I will say, I manage some bigger YouTube channels, but for my own, obviously I don't have that many subscribers, and some of you watching this won't have that many subscribers either. So the way that you can test this is if you put like $10 behind every test, so say you put out 3 thumbnails, then you put $10 of ads toward the video, you can learn what people respond to in terms of thumbnails, right? So you can just test this and drive traffic to your videos just to figure out what works and what doesn't. If you're a bigger channel, lucky you, you probably have enough traffic coming to your site in order to reach statistical significance for these tests. Okay, so now that we've covered a little bit about how to test, I want to help you use some of the tools that I use to come up with actual thumbnail ideas. So like I said, the goal, the ultimate goal, if you have the money, if you have the budget, the recommendation is around 90 thumbnails, right? If you want to do even better, do more. More is probably better, honestly. And you want 80% of whatever you create because, again, most of us aren't going to be able to create 90 thumbnails, but say you're making 15. If you make 80% of it, what you've seen work based on videos similar to yours or past videos that have worked for you before, keep 80% of your testing around that sort of concept and then 20% on something new and exciting. And I think that people get this mixed up a lot, but if you stick to mostly what works, then experiment a little bit. It's probably going to pay off better for you in the long run. Like, think about it. You wouldn't put a bunch of money into a risky stock, like 80% of your money in a risky stock and only 20% of your money in a Roth IRA. Like, that's not wise. And the same thing goes with ads and advertising and thumbnails and packaging and all that sort of stuff. So when you are coming up with these ideas, the way that I do it is I will just honestly, if I'm having trouble coming up with like a title or thumbnail idea, I will just go to AI and I will have it give me ideas. They always kind of suck, but they help me get my brain going. So if you put into ChatGPT X number of thumbnail ideas, that's really helpful. The other thing that I do sometimes is I will research other people's videos, like I said, see what their titles are, see what their thumbnails are, type in a video similar to mine and see what the ones with the most views, what they look like. And honestly, it's just a matter of trial and error and figuring out what works for you. The other thing that you can test out on a macro level is different styles of thumbnail altogether. So say you have like one that's before and after, one that's just an expression with text, one with like some random influencer that you mentioned in the video and some text. Especially if you're a smaller channel, you might get some benefit from the halo effect there. But really, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple when doing thumbnails and doing the testing and everything like that. And if you enjoyed this video, if you found value from it, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, all that sort of stuff. Leave a comment if you want any personalized advice. But to TLDR the video, basically you can now ABC test thumbnails on YouTube. If you don't have it yet, don't worry because it's a beta feature. It's gonna be where the thumbnail kind of replacement thing is now. But if you don't have it yet, like I said, don't worry. You can also, in the meantime, use paid tools like TubeBuddy or Thumbnail Analyzer. And then when you are testing those thumbnails, do competitor research or use AI before. Test like 80% of what works, 20% a little bit experimental, a little bit fun, and you can test your thumbnails over time. If you got a smaller channel, drive traffic through ads. If you got a bigger channel, don't worry about it. Your test will probably reach statistical significance. And test macro before you test micro. So test ideas and concepts before you test little things like fonts and colors. I hope this summed it all up for you. Again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye!